Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us again. My name is Victoria Dowling. I'm the VP of Renovation Sales at Cross Country Mortgage, and we have with us, as always, our favorite designer, Kate Troyer. Thank you for joining us, Kate. For those of you who were here last month, you know that every month we do a call where we stop and talk about all things renovation and design. Last month, we talked about 5 common renovation projects and how to really maximize your budget, where to spend your money, where to save your money to get the most bang for your buck and the most out of what you want from that project. Next month, we're going to be talking about how to feng shui your home workspace or your workspace in general, which I'm so excited about. So be on the lookout for that invite. And this month, we're going to talk about outdoor renovations. I love this topic. I feel like when people think of renovation loans, they picture a foreclosed house that's almost falling down, and the only way someone can finance it is with a renovation loan. But that's not all that renovation does. It's so much more versatile than that. So, first of all, it doesn't have to be a purchase. You can use a renovation loan to refinance the house you already own. And another bank might have told you that you don't have enough equity to do what you want because they're talking about a home equity line of credit or a cash out refinance that usually limits your loan to value around 80% of your current appraised value. Renovation financing lends against that future value of your house as if the work's already been done. And we can often go to 95 or 97.75% of that future value. So there's so much more wiggle room in what we can help you get done with a home you own or a home you're buying. And then the second part of that is everyone always pictures this rundown foreclosed house, but that's not the case at all. You can use renovation financing for a house like that. We could absolutely close on a house in any condition, but your house could be in perfect condition and you might have cosmetics that you want to get done. Like you want to build an addition or you want to do some outdoor renovations. And so today we're really going to talk about how you could use a renovation loan to get some of those outdoor renovations done now that we're coming into the spring and the summer and everybody wants to be outside. We've all been cooped up, certainly for the last 16 months. We're looking for ways to get back out there. So I'd love to take a look at our first topic today, which is patios, I believe. So patios, surprisingly, it had a pretty good return on investment. It's got a 69% return on investment for a patio. And, there are so many options about what you can do with a patio space, not connected to the house. We've got this great picture of a pergola. You're going to hear me say this a couple times. The trick here is anything you're doing outside that's a structure, it's got to be permanent. It can't be temporary. So you could do a permanent pergola structure that's secured to the ground or with concrete. Kate, why don't you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on outdoor patio spaces?
So it's funny that we started talking about the pergolas because this was actually something that I looked up a little bit more information on. And now this was just from a couple articles I read, so correct me if I'm wrong. But because now this was not the case a year or two ago, but now post-pandemic, from what I read, adding a pergola can add 50 to 80 or can give you a 50 to 80% return on investment, which I kind of thought was crazy. But with people really wanting to live outside more, like you mentioned, it can do a couple things. Like even if it's not fully covered, it can still give you a little bit of shade from the heat, and you can also add shades. Kind of almost like that Roman shade look on the top. So I actually kind of learned something too about that. I've always loved pergolas. I think they're kind of a nice way to kind of like anchor your outdoor space. Almost kind of like for me in a living room or a bedroom, I'm always, like you have to have a rug to kind of bring your space in and make it cozier. So that's kind of what I feel like the pergola is the rug of the outdoors for me.
I love that. It really does anchor that space and help define it so that it does like in this picture, it makes a beautiful living area space, but it's great, I would assume, for a dining table too, or just to really define what that area is used for. So open and airy.
I know. I really love it. I love the curtains in this picture too. Like it just kind of a little romantic as well, like a nice little date night area. Like I really love it. So, adding an outdoor living space can really kind of like we just discussed, can be so versatile, right? Especially with us, kind of being used to being at home, we're not leaving the house as much. It can be used to have people over and have a party. It can be used as kind of like your date night in, if you want to set it up, for that kind of more romantic setting. And I know some people are even, adding almost like outdoor movie theater type spaces to their homes as well, putting an outdoor screen up with a projector, and bam, you kind of have your own outdoor movie theater, which is really cool. So I guess patios, there's really so many options that you can choose with your patios now. You've got concrete, just a regular concrete, a stamped concrete, like in the picture on the left, or even using some sort of stone like a travertine, which I absolutely just love and adore. So I think really the biggest thing that we're going to see, between these three different materials is cost. So your concrete or your stamped concrete is obviously going to be a little bit more labor wise than a regular concrete pad is, but they're still going to be about $4 to $8 a square foot, but that includes labor. Once you kind of move into looking at a stone or a travertine, you're looking at probably $4 to $6 per square foot, but that's not including labor. So travertine is definitely going to be at the higher end of your budget. But if you can do it, it's stunning and it's beautiful. And I just feel like you can't, you kind of can't go wrong with that natural stone. It just gives such a beautiful look.
Yeah, so timeless.
Mhm.
With the outdoor renovations, we're going to see across the board, it's not as high a return investment on some of the things we talked about last week, but I feel like, or last month, but I feel like with the outdoor renovations, a lot of the value is in how you're able to use the space as the homeowner with you and your family and how it makes it functional. And I think these patios are a perfect example of it. I love this picture we found too, because it shows you also the outdoor kitchen. So again, as long as it's permanently affixed, you can put it in there. So you couldn't use a renovation loan to buy a standalone grill, but if you're going to put in an outdoor kitchen with a grill and an outdoor fridge, you could definitely do that. And it's just a great way to expand your usable living space and how your family flows and functions throughout the property. And look at that view. If you've got a view, a patio is a great way to take advantage of that too.
Yeah, I think
So
if you have a view, oh, sorry.
go ahead. No, that's okay.
I was going to say, I feel like if you have a view like that, putting some sort of patio in is almost a must.
Yeah, I'm sure that has a higher return on investment when you're highlighting something like that as well. So next up, very similar to patios, but we wanted to talk about this separately, is decks. Decks have a little bit higher of a return on investment, 76% return on investment. And unlike the standalone patio, it gives you an opportunity to really move your indoor space outdoors, connected directly to. You can have multi-level space. This yard, it doesn't look like they would have been able to have a yard, for example, without this deck. So it's giving them more usable space there. So definitely we're seeing a little bit higher of return on investment when it comes to the decks. I know material prices, because we were just talking about those material prices of the stamped concrete versus the stone. And I know material prices for lumber and decking have gone a little crazy. What are you seeing on that side of things, Kate?
So what I'm seeing, and then I'll kind of give you my personal recommendation too. So the Trex system, where it's like the composite wood, they really haven't gone up much in cost at all over the last couple years. But obviously, as we all know, lumber has absolutely skyrocketed. So really, whereas 2-3 years ago, putting in a Trex system would have been 4 to 5 times more than doing a wood deck, there now a Trex system is only about 10% more than using wood. So in my, in my personal opinion, going with the composite and using like a Trex system is a no-brainer.
Mhm.
you're spending a minimal amount more, especially if you are rolling this into something like a renovation loan. And it's something that you don't have to really upkeep. You're not replacing boards, you're not sanding down and restaining. I mean, wood decks are beautiful, don't get me wrong, but there's just so much maintenance in them. So nowadays, when we're looking at costs being virtually the same, I just feel like why not reduce the headache for the future and go with something that's a composite material, so that you have a more lifelong lasting deck, as opposed to something that, especially, I'm in Ohio, and somewhere like here, I mean, people are really kind of treating their decks practically every year to be able to keep up with the weather, and just how much like of a beating that they take from the winters and everything like that. So, I mean, even if it kind of, even if lumber goes back down, I feel like if you have the budget to use a composite material, it's almost worth it, unless you really, really, really hate composite and love the idea of wood. It's just so much easier to take care of, and it's going to last you so much longer.
Yeah, we're in Portland, Maine, and our deck faces the water, the ocean. So it was getting beaten up all the time. We just switched to Trex. And it's surprising. You would be, I think people would be surprised, not you, but people, to see how far it's come in really design and style. And they don't look as plastic and as, fake, I think, as some people might think. And they are, I mean, maintenance. You want to go out and enjoy your backyard space. You don't want to be working on it all the time. So that's great advice. Oh, and a front porch. I love a front porch. It can always add to the curb appeal and to change the way the front of your house looks. Renovation loans can be used to do just that. You could do a front porch. You could dormer out the front of your house. So you could certainly change the way the front of the house looks. I didn't specifically look up the return on investment on a front porch, but I know that who doesn't want that space to land before you get into the house? I mean, and it's the first impression of the house.
Yeah, so I will. I know that next month we're diving a little bit more into the feng shui side of kind of what I do, and so just kind of mentioning that within talking about a front porch, or just having a more established front entrance. It's one of the biggest things in feng shui, because it's known, like, your front door and the space leading up to your front door is known as your greeter. And it's also where all of your energy is flowing into the house. So one, a nicer, put together, finished porch is going to give you a better energy flow, but it's also going to welcome you home and welcome your guests in a more positive manner. And to me, it's just like a front porch really just, it sets the tone for the rest of the home. And then let's face it, in the summer months and when it's warm, there's there's just nothing more summer to me than like rocking on, the front patio. We always did that with my grandparents growing up, and it's one of my favorite memories. And I just think that so many people kind of have that idea of being on their front porch. So I think it's just such a wonderful addition.
Yeah, a great way to interact with your neighbors too and enjoy the outdoor space. Let's see. Next up, I think we have one that will surprise people. So we've got a poll popping up right now. I know we love the polls. Should be popping up any second. Here we go. Which of the following is not included in our reno financing? Is it poolside tiling, new in-ground pools, or safety railings? So vote now. We'll see your results in just a second. Safety railings. So the lovely thing about this is it's a trick question. You can do all of these things. And I feel like one of the things that most people really think you can't do with a renovation loan is a pool. So let's talk about pools for a second. There are a number of different types of renovation loans. Some lenders only offer FHA 203K, and so they're limited in what they can do. But we offer 5 different types of renovation loans. And with our conventional renovation products, Freddie and Fannie, you can put in an in-ground pool. And we have gotten so many requests for our in-ground pool installs over the past 16 months, really because of everyone's just home and looking for ways that they can enjoy the property that they have. This pool is a great example. We've got our lovely pergola, our permanent pergola structure built in there. We got some decking, we've got a pool. All of that would be allowed with renovation financing. And I would love to hear what you think about pools, Kate.
Well, I love pools, and I don't know who doesn't. I was actually, when we were kind of putting this together, I know I mentioned to you about us putting in a pool, and I was actually really excited to also learn and find out that you can cover that in your renovation loans because, I think probably like the majority of people, it's just not, adding something that's, purely for fun in my eyes just is like not something I would originally think about when, adding in something to my renovation loan. So I was super excited about that. I'm a pool person. I know some people are like, oh, the maintenance, da, 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 but I think it's totally worth it. Even living in Ohio, where we only have maybe a max of 5 months where you can even use a pool. I think that if you have the budget and you have the space for them, they're just such a wonderful addition. And again, like post-pandemic, we're just using our homes in such a different way. They've become our offices, our a place for schooling, a place for fun, relaxing, having people over. I feel like the home used to be that kind of space. And then the last 20 or 30 years, we've really kind of gotten away from that. And so many activities took place outside of the home. And now, and this is actually, one of the things that I kind of love that the pandemic has given us is that we're starting to really utilize our homes and, spend time in them and put energy into really making them a place that we don't want to leave and that we want to bring people to. And I think adding a pool is just such a great way to do that. And then when it comes to a pool, I mean, there's so many different things that you can do to kind of, add some, it doesn't just have to be like a square or a rectangle in the ground. Like you can add, there are different options. You can add water features, you can add fire features. Now we have the option of doing a chlorine and salt water, which I think, which I think is actually something I'm a very big fan of a saltwater pool over chlorine. They're actually, a saltwater is actually going to be less maintenance for you. Over, as far as like buying your products to keep your pool, clean throughout the year, it's actually typically $200 to $400, whereas a chlorine runs you about $1,000. And obviously it's better on your skin, it's better for your hair, it's better on, just so many things. Really, the biggest difference is going to be when you're building the pool. The salt water is going to be slightly more expensive at the beginning, just because you have to have a little bit different equipment. And mainly that's just because the salt water, can cause erosion with different materials. So you just need, some slightly different materials for that. But other than that, over the long run, they're actually easier to take care of. And to, I think most everyone's surprised, they actually are generally cleaner than a chlorine pool is going to be. So less germs as well. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's a win all around. And when it comes to pools, this is probably the one that has the lowest return on investment. It really depends on where you live, how long in the year you can use the pool, what your neighbors have. But it still will increase your house on average by 7%. So it's not completely sunk money. And really, like we were saying earlier, a lot of the renovations that are outdoors are more about how you and your family are going to spend your time on the property and utilize the property. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of these things don't start to have more value going forward because we've all lived this very different life the last 16 months. Like you mentioned, it's changing the way people are using their homes and living every day. I was reading something the other day that was talking about how when the Spanish flu happened, people started having like a powder room so people could come in and wash their hands, and that powder rooms weren't really a thing before that. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I wonder what's going to happen here. And so far, it's been a lot of pools and a lot of additions that we've seen come in from our area, at least. Let's talk about materials because I know there are lots of choices, and I think we have a
Mhm.
picture of, yeah, this lovely pool, which I know you helped consult with, and it looks gorgeous. It looks amazing.
Yeah, this is actually one of my clients and my friends, and actually my hairstylist as well. So she's absolutely wonderful. She pretty much made all of these main choices, but when she had a couple of questions, we were kind of going back and forth through text and whatnot. They actually did do a saltwater pool, and she loves it. They kind of did everything. So I think that they waited a few years and were like, okay, we're putting in a pool. We're doing everything that we want. So they actually, I know it's not on, but the piece on the left-hand side is actually a water and a fire feature. So it's
Oh,
got the
wow.
fountain. Yeah, it's got the fountain, like if you can kind of see it in the front, and then from the top, they have the fire, like a gas fire feature, which is absolutely amazing at night. And then they went with the travertine all for their entire patio and around the pool, which I think people can kind of see a better, kind of a better look at that when we talked about it earlier. And I love the travertine so much. I'm partial to stone either way. And yes, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but I just think it's absolutely stunning and beautiful.
Yeah, it does. It looks beautiful. It looks timeless. It looks like it's gonna wear well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a beautiful pool all around. I don't know who wouldn't want that in their backyard. It's amazing. And
I
I know
do.
we can yeah, we can't do furniture as part of the renovation loan, but this is gorgeous furniture too. Again, just showing that living space is extended and it really is making your that home looks like a sanctuary. Like I feel
Mm-hmm.
relaxed looking at that picture. I can't imagine how I would feel if I was sitting by that pool. So that's amazing. Outdoor kitchens. So yeah, you're spending all this time outside. You're hungry. Yeah, you can do an outdoor kitchen. This goes back to what we were talking about before. As long as it's permanently affixed, it's something that you can add and you can build. And there are a few things I can think of that would really extend your living space more than an outdoor kitchen, just giving you that additional space to connect, to eat, to get together. And when it comes to outdoor kitchens, um, it's kind of all over the place when it comes to the return on investment because it really does depend on what kind of neighborhood you're in, what kind of area you're in, whether you can use this outdoor kitchen 8 months out of the year or 2 months out of the year. But generally, return on investment is anywhere from 55% to 200%. Buyers
Wow.
love to see these. Yeah. And we rarely see anything that has a return on investment over 100. So it's just a very cool addition to add to your backyard. And same thing, I would assume, materials. So, Kate, what do you think about materials for an outdoor kitchen, similar to what you'd be talking about for poolside decking or?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's really so many options, kind of depending on what your style is. And then also, of course, your budget too. Like here, this is all stacked stone. I've also seen outdoor kitchens where, the most of it is kind of like a wood surround where you've almost got like wood planking or even like a cedar, which is absolutely beautiful. So I think that kind of, again, though, you're going to have more wear and things like that. This is just, I freaking love this. This is just so fun. And, I love that. I think this gives people an idea that you don't have to do something super traditional like what we just saw with we see the stacked stone kitchens very often. This is a place where I feel like they really utilize the outdoor nature space that they already had. And I'm sure that, like these tree stumps probably came from the property. They built around the tree, and that's what their lighting is hanging from. And the tree is the bar is literally like built into the tree. So I love that, we're kind of able to share and give people ideas, probably something that they wouldn't, think of necessarily doing. And so I think when it comes to your outdoor kitchen, it's really just going to depend on like, what are you going to utilize it for? Like clearly, these people probably have like do a lot of entertaining, right? They
Mm-hmm.
probably love to mix cocktails and have, nighttime parties and things like that. Whereas the one before, it could just be a family that likes to, you've got dad who like loves to grill and cook and, likes to entertain in that fashion. And so really there's so many things you can do. You can grill, you can get a smoker. I've seen some amazing, some outdoor pizza ovens, like even with the stone base where, if you love making pizzas. I've even seen some, I have a client where he's pretty much designing his outdoor kitchen himself, but we have talked about it in some other consultation work that I've done for the inside of their new home, where he's putting an outdoor pantry in because he is like insurance agent by day and practically like chef by night. And so he loves to be outside. He loves to cook. So they're even installing like an outdoor pantry so that in the summer, it's literally like he never has to go inside. They can practically just live out there again, just adding to that, living space. Like you don't have to go inside. Everything is outside. And then, if you're in Cleveland and you love the Browns, you're watching football every single Sunday. And so, it's also a space that you can have everybody over, even once it gets a little bit cooler, because you can add fire pits and an outdoor TV and have a place to have everybody over to watch the game. Like this is a great example of that. This is also, very much covered, just kind of open to the outdoors. So especially somewhere like in Ohio or, in Maine, or I know, Shane's in Massachusetts, it's kind of, this is kind of a nice little mix because you could still be outside, enjoying, probably into October, possibly even November, depending on how the weather is, and still be kind of shielded from the elements a little bit too.
Yeah, and talk about extending your living space. This truly extends it, opened up to the outdoors. Really just great overall, I'm sure. And something like this is going to give you a little bit more return on your investment because it is so connected to the main house than something that is out in the yard. But either way, goal of mine, next house, I want an outdoor kitchen. I know that it just adds that value that to how you can use the space. And speaking of, we have one last topic that kind of encompasses everything we've been talking about a little bit, which is landscaping. So this one really surprised me when I was looking this one up. Smart landscaping, depending on where you started to where you ended up, can get you anywhere between 100% to 400% return on investment.
Wow.
Yeah, right? It's huge. So
Yeah.
just like painting, when we talked about last month, how painting has that huge return on investment. It's one of those things where you're not spending as much money usually, and you're getting a big impact. And when it comes to landscaping, there are some things that renovation loans don't allow. It is a little more utilitarian when it comes to some of the actual yard. So, for example, you can't plant trees or bushes or flowers, but you could cut down a tree if it's too close to your foundation. You could certainly do walkways, driveways, fencing, garage, decks, all of that's included. And if you needed to grade the ground so that you have kind of a smoother yard, or build a retaining wall, you could do something like that too. But yeah, huge return on investment compared to anything else we talked about today. What are your thoughts on landscaping, Kate?
So I'm glad that you, brought that up, and also that you kind of mentioned what your reno loan is going to take care of. I would say that if you are, within your reno loan, you are going to do all of this renovating and putting all this work into the exterior of your home, I would go into that knowing that you should be setting aside at least some sort of personal budget for your landscaping. Because to me, landscaping is kind of like the jewelry of your outfit, right? Like you can have a killer outfit, but if you don't have any accessories, it just kind of is like, it's a nice nice dress, but it doesn't have the wow factor. And I mean, landscaping just really gives you that finishing touch. It gives you that wow factor. And so I think that, if you're planning on doing a renovation loan and you're doing some significant updates to your exterior, figure out how much you can set aside to do some landscaping. Landscaping doesn't have to be crazy expensive. It's also something that even if you aren't super handy, you could do yourself. And let's say that, there's a couple different ways you could do it. You could completely pay a landscaping company to come in, pick everything, plant everything, do it all. That's obviously going to be your easiest option. But you could even do things like utilize a landscaping consultant. I actually have one of my friends who's local in Northeast Ohio, who he just he does landscaping, but he'll also do landscaping consults. So if you can't really afford or want to put your budget towards, someone doing all of the install for you, he can kind of come in and help you map out your landscaping, and then also give you an idea of what plants you should get depending on, sun, shade, what's your, how much maintenance do you want in taking care of them, things like that. So there's really a large scale of how you can do landscaping, how you can make it affordable if you need to. But I think if you're putting the work into a big exterior project, if you're not doing the landscaping, I feel like you're just kind of selling the project short, and it's just not going to have that. You're going to stand back and be like, I really love this, but when you're doing a big project, you should never feel like that at the end. It should never be like, well, I love this, but I wish we would have done that. If you're putting your time and effort and money into it, do it right and go all the way.
And the nice thing about landscaping too is, as long as you keep the plants alive, which is I think where the landscape consultant is key, because we tried to keep our plants alive for a few years, and we were like, we did that. We hired a landscape consultant and a little farm near here that does flowers, and we were like, please come help us. But it's the kind of thing that as it matures over time, it's just adding more and more value. It's appreciating how it impacts the first impression of your property as those plants grow and become more established, and really just ups your curb appeal every year that you go forward. So I love landscaping, and yeah, a lot of the renovations you can do are utilitarian, but just like Kate said, you could have the contractor regrade the lawn and sod the areas you want sodded, and now your beds are ready for you. You go ahead and pick out those plants or get consulted on those plants and plant them yourself, save money on that piece of it, and really add as much value as you can. And something we didn't talk about, but I think we'll probably talk a little bit about on another call, or maybe even a little next month, is about ADUs, because we're talking about the outside. You can use a renovation loan to build an accessory dwelling unit in your yard as long as zoning permits. So we talked about a pool. You could build a pool house. You could build a guest house, a mother-in-law suite, lots of options with that. But you could also build a home office. So maybe we'll touch on that a tiny bit and have a little separated space from your house. Well, those are most of our topics today. So we'd love to.
Oh, she's gone. I think she was about to ask if we had any questions.
I'm excited for the feng shui though. I'm really excited about it. I'm gonna be taking notes.
I'm really excited too. I'm really excited about that one. And you gave me some great ideas earlier on kind of where I think what we talked about earlier is probably, because I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, okay, where am I going to start? What's going to be the biggest portion of that? And I think what we touched on earlier is probably one of the most important things that people are going to be like, So yeah. I'm really, really excited about it.
Yeah, August 4th, I think, is our next one. The first, yep, August 4th, 3 p.m. So make sure you pay attention and look for the invite, and we'd love to have you join us again.
Ooh, we've got a question, I think.
Can shipping containers that are purchased and used as building shells be included in renovation loans?
That's a great question. And this really goes back to, it has to be permanently affixed to the property. So we can't do a shipping container. It would have to be some kind of stick-built structure that you were going to use. Modular is also something that's technically allowed. Sometimes we have a bit of a discrepancy between how the renovation loan can pay the contractor and how the modular company wants to be paid. Sometimes that can be worked out, sometimes it can't. So really your best bet is to have a stick-built structure, a structure that's built on site. Great question though. We do get that question a lot.
Well, it doesn't seem like there's any more questions as of right now, but I do see that you have your information up there. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to Kate or Victoria with any questions. But other than that, I'll let you have the rest of your day. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. See ya.
Bye.